In this video, I want to show you guys my Guardian build for the new Deep of Night mode in Nightreign. I think Guardian is probably one of the meta characters right now. He has just become so much better since the recent patch. He's gotten some really strong relics or depth relics in this update as well that make him much more effective at dealing damage. He's still really, really tanky. And if you've gotten anywhere in the Deep of Night update, you'll know that at some point everything just basically becomes a one-shot, more or less. Like that's where it goes. And it's really hard to play any sort of melee character that gets in range and doesn't die in one hit. Wilder relies on his grapple to get in range quickly and then uses follow-up. That gets him killed a lot in later parts. Raider can be one-shot even with his health pool unless he uses his character ability, and if that's down, he's in a bad spot. But Guardian can block with his shield, so it's very unlikely he's going to get one-shot most of the time. Not only that, it allows him to stay safe and keep aggro if you set him up correctly, allowing your two other characters that are hopefully ranged, like just unload into the target where you kind of more or less hold them in place. And he just has really good abilities that are conducive to support, and his damage is also a little bit better. So I want to show you guys what I'm doing and why I think everyone should probably have a Guardian in their party at the moment. So the first thing, let's talk about what Guardian got in the update. Guardian got an increase to strength and dexterity as he levels up, so that's going to improve his damage. His Steel Guard passive has improved its ability angle range, meaning that he'll be able to block attacks in a wider angle than he could before. Still not flawless, you will still get hit sometimes even when you feel like you shouldn't, but it is definitely improved from where it was, so you should block more attacks that were hitting you before. He also has increased range on Wings of Salvation's ultimate. The weapon portion hits further, so that helps him AoE down like lots of enemies, which is great. And he has increased attack power on Halberd Guard counters. I don't guard counter a ton on Guardian when I play him. There's just not a lot of opportunity because of the long animation in order to stay safe. But if you are using Halberds, that's definitely a benefit to you. So let's take a look at the relics next. So on my Guardian, I have the Witch's Brooch, which I think is pretty much a staple for any Guardian. That you can find ones, there's a Everdark Sovereign has a similar one that's also good, that's a different color, but this one I really like. It heals when he uses the charged version of his ultimate, which can be a lifesaver if you're out of flasks, which is really good. The Shockwave's ability when active is almost a must for Guardian, and it's for several reasons. It can deal damage to the target when you can't let go of block. It can interrupt targets, preventing them from chaining attacks against you. It deals stance damage to the target to keep their stance damage bar going up so you can stance break them more frequently. It helps maintain aggro, and sometimes it can help you res teammates if you get hit and trigger it near enemies. So you basically shouldn't be playing Guardian without that one. The first one is negotiable, but that second one isn't. And the Witch's Brooch also has Vigor, so that's 60 HP for you, which is quite strong. The next one I'm running is Dark Knight of the Fathom. This increases maximum HP by 100. It gives you continuous HP recovery to help you recover from getting chip damage or from having a negative effect that lowers your health by a little bit, like continuous health loss, although I still don't recommend taking that. Or maybe you have like poison or something that's triggered on you. It can really help keep you alive. And the last effect slowly restores HP for self and nearby allies when your HP is low. So if your health gets really low, then it starts coming back much more quickly. And this is really good on Guardian because that allows him to not have to flask as often, especially if you pair it with some of the dormant powers like heal on blocking and things like that, or if you have another relic that gives you heal on blocking. That window where he goes to flask can leave him open to attacks, and when you don't have to flask because you can just replenish your health with blocking and continuous health recovery, you're a lot less likely to get one shot or, almost one shot when you let go of block. Next, we have the increased duration on his skill. This is absolutely deadly. It's really good for crowd control, rounding up enemies, grouping them up so you can AoE them down as a group. It juggles some of the more difficult enemies in the game. Even the regular enemies like Banished Knights that can be somewhat difficult regularly when you have red versions of them. When you can just group them all up together and then AoE them down, it can make a mockery of them. And when you go into camps where there's lots of adds or boss fights where, they start with a lot of adds, you can round them up quickly, AoE them down. And you'll use this all the time. This is an absolute must on Guardian, in my opinion, just for the utility that it brings, not really for the damage. I also have Shield Grease in possession at Start of Expedition. This will start you with 3 Shield Greases. This increases your guard boost. I'm not exactly sure by how much. I think it's +7. It may increase as your character increases, but I'm not sure. It also increases the amount of damage negation that you have towards other affinities. Every shield has 100% physical damage negation in the game, but they don't have 100% for other elements. So This improves that on your shield, so this can be really good for tough bosses or like the last day boss, in order to make sure that you getting a little extra guard boost and you're taking a little less elemental damage. And it starts with 3 of them, which is quite nice. You don't have to have this, but it's nice to have. The bows equipped one is obviously not good. Improved strength and dexterity and reduced vigor. This improves your strength, I think, by like 20 or something like that. It is an absolute insane amount of stats that you get. Let me just double check exactly how much this is real quick. Increases your strength by 9 and dexterity by 19 and reduces your vigor by 8. So you basically lose 160 health, but you have way more dexterity and way more strength. So you should deal more damage overall and maybe potentially lean more towards dexterity-based weapons. This is really, really good for, or quality-based weapons. This is really, really good for improving Guardian's damage. I think it's roughly like a 15 to 20% damage increase depending on what weapon type he's doing, for losing 160 HP, which is like maybe a 10%, 15% health reduction. So this is really, really strong, and you don't have to run it on your Guardian, but it's a great way to help get through bosses faster, like particularly bosses where you don't have to block as much because they'll die faster, which means you'll get more done, you'll get more XP, your run will go more smoothly. HP restoration on heavy thrusting sword attacks is just there. I mean, it's good if you're using a heavy thrusting sword, but it's not, obviously, I wasn't using it for that. I was using it for the improved strength and dexterity. And the physical attack power increased after using a grease item is really nice. I think it's like, yeah, it's like 17% or 20% for 30 seconds after using a grease. Because I have the shield greases, this is a nice combo. I don't expect too many people to have both of these, so this is kind of, I lucked out in this case. But getting an extra 20% increase in damage on the hard fights or hard bosses when you need the extra protection is a double win. So that's really, really good. Next I have draw enemy attention while guarding. I don't know how much this does, but I will tell you that since I've had it on, I probably have boss aggro 60 to 80% of the time, which, 80% is good, 60% is not as good. When the boss is on you and your teammates can just unload into them without worrying, that's when you're at your best. But I don't know like how often it would be without it, so I definitely recommend having it, especially if you can get your teammates to have like less likely to be targeted, then you're even more likely to have aggro. This is while guarding, obviously, so you want to try and keep your shield up as much as possible. And I also have runes and item discovery increased for each enemy defeated at a fort there. I just didn't have a good one with draw enemy attention on it while guarding. This is probably the best secondary bonus I could find with that passive on it, so it's not a bad one, and obviously the Executor one doesn't apply. I don't have perfect relics. Next is the character skill boost or damage negation to nearby allies. So when you use your Whirlwind, it's going to give you, I think it's like 12% damage negation while it's active for you and nearby allies, and that is a lot, especially when things start one-shotting you. That might make it so that your allies don't get one-shot, they get 80% or 90% of their health. And obviously it's really good for you, it's a huge health pool that saves you a bunch of health. And you tend to like get hit sometimes when you're casting that ability, especially if you use the charged version. I also then have physical attack up +4. I think this is 10% damage if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty good. I'm not really trying to get damage modifiers here. I mean, it's obviously good to have damage, but the taking damage causes blood loss buildup is pretty rough. Like, blood loss is probably one of the worst ones to have, because if it was like poison and I got poisoned, I would just take damage over time that some of my health recovery would replenish. But bleed can rip off a huge chunk of health and interrupt you and get you killed. So that's not ideal. Ideally, you wouldn't have blood loss buildup or, death buildup. Both of those can be really, really bad. So for weapons on this build, I like to basically use the starter shield unless I find a better shield. And usually the reason I like the starter shield so much is because it has no skill. So you can use your weapon skill without having to two-hand it, which is, in the thick of battle, rough to do. You know what I mean? Switch back and forth between one-handing and two-handing and can get you killed, especially on the harder difficulties. And I like to upgrade it quickly, like if I hit a fort or something, or an encampment quickly, buy a stone instead of getting a level 3, and then just upgrading the shield, then getting a level 3 quickly to get that extra guard boost, and then upgrade it to purple eventually from a mine. You're in pretty good shape. You will find other shields that have better elemental damage resistance, and unfortunately the game doesn't really show you that while you're playing, so you might want to take a minute and like look through the shields in the training area to see what those are. If you find one with better elemental resistances, and even though it has a weapon skill on it, you should probably take it, just because a lot of the endgame bosses deal lots of elemental damage, and being able to block that is really good. Kind of piggybacking off that, if you can find relics as well that apply like affinity damage negation on the depth relics, that's really, really good. You don't need physical damage negation because you are going to be blocking all physical damage in an ideal world. So you need elemental damage negation, and that's affinity. So if you can get like magic damage negation, holy damage negation, lightning damage negation, or even better, affinity damage negation, because that's all of them, even though it's a little bit less, you'll help deal with some of that chip damage a little bit better, which is great. For my weapon, I like anything that I can use while I'm holding my shield up and poking. This is usually thrusting swords, heavy thrusting swords, halberds, spears, great spears. Those weapon types allow you to hold your shield up and poke while you're turtling, even when you're in steel guard stance, which is great. And you typically want to find something that has a status effect, like either Scarlet Rot is like the best one, or Poison, or maybe Bleed, because you can deal a lot of damage with those status effects while you're still blocking and holding aggro, and that kind of allows you to keep up with your team damage-wise while not having to prioritize damage, so you don't feel like you're not contributing. And it can also make some of the harder bosses than end-of-day bosses on the third day go down much more quickly if there's constant pressure on them from Scarlet Rot or Poison, or both. If you get lucky and get like a Poison Anspur, that's really good. So if you have like on a relic like Dormant Power, prioritize thrusting swords or heavy thrusting swords, that can be really, really good as well. Or spears or great spears can also be really, really good. That's generally what I'm going with on my build. I don't prioritize damage, even though I do have a relic that improves damage a bit, but it's not my priority overall. My priority is staying alive, helping my team, but getting a little bit of extra damage can make your run go more smoothly, so that when you get to that end day boss, you're a couple levels higher, you have a couple more dormant powers, or maybe one good weapon that you might not have had, and that can really make the difference. And I think because of the relics that they've added to him now, and the update with the patch, how they've made him stronger, he's just much better to play overall right now, and you should definitely not write him off. I've been getting these straight wins with him since playing him. He's really, really good. But let's talk about passive effects on weapons that you want to get. Passive effects on weapons, you want to look out for, first of all, anything that improves guard boost ability or guarding ability. That's going to make it so you take less stamina when you're blocking. That's priority number one. Look out for that. Damage negation when you're blocking or after you've blocked is really, really good for improving how little damage you take. That's one to look out for. You definitely want that. Continuous HP recovery is good, particularly if you're stacking it so that you just replenish health constantly. That can be a good one. But probably the one you want to look out for the most on any character regardless is damage negation at max HP. Like, that's the one that's really going to help keep you alive, because that'll take a one-shot. Guardian doesn't get one-shot that much. This is more applicable to other characters, but it'll reduce the damage significantly. You can get up to like 40%, and if you have a couple of them, you can just absolutely nullify that first hit, which, is really good for Guardian, because if that's a small amount, then he doesn't even need to flask, and he can just let his health come back from continuous health recovery, and that's really good. Other things to look out for are max health or max stamina. You definitely don't want to sacrifice health or stamina if possible. You can ditch FP, you're not using it all that frequently. And try and find a weapon that has a decent weapon skill or a status effect. That's really what you're looking for. Other things you can get for relics too, by the way, are like health, stamina is not bad. Healing on guarding is good. Ultimate art on guarding is good, so you can use your ult. I find that, his ult, Guardian's ult, is clutch for saving runs. When you have 3 pips on like 2 allies and you can save the run from that, you feel like a god. Like, you're one of the only characters besides Revenant that can do that, really. So that's absolutely amazing. I find when I use other characters like Iron Eye and stuff like that, even though their abilities can damage, like when there's lots of ads, in boss fights, you're holding it for reses most of the time, because you just don't have time to get someone with 2 pips up, or maybe there's 2 people down and you can get them with 2 pips, but this is even better. So anything that can get your ultimate art out where you're blocking so that you can use it more regularly is good. And keep in mind, if you don't charge his ult either, you only use half the ultimate art gauge, so you can use it again more frequently, so you can save runs maybe more than once if you need to, which is great, especially if you're playing with randoms. So that's good. So I want to hear from you guys. How are you playing your Guardian right now? Are you finding that he's powerful? Are you finding him underpowered? What do you make of the changes? How are you finding the Deep of Night? I'm finding it really, really tough. I don't know about you guys. It's very, very tough. And I really wish there were more rewards to it. And I would love to hear what you guys think about that as well. We'll probably do some more build guides, and we'll probably just do an overall guide for the Deep of Night as soon as we can, and get into that a little bit.